Joining us right now for a wide-ranging conversation about market regulations, crypto, the future of capitalism, the law, and so much more. Jay Clayton, U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. He is Wall Street's top prosecutor. He's a former SEC chair, of course, former CNBC contributor. And we should mention this is his first interview with us in his new role. Thank you so much for being back.
Well, it's nice to be back, and congratulations on 30 years.
Thanks. So help us just understand what's happened with you over the last couple of months, because you got this job originally on an interim basis, or blocked on an interim basis. Now you have it. The court says you can have it. What's going on?
It's it's permanent now. I'm in the role. I'm happy to be there. Got a great group of people. We're doing good things, and it's full steam ahead.
Do you see yourself as the top cop for Wall Street? And people have always used that phrase for this particular role, running the Southern District.
I'm not sure I really would pick that phrase for myself. I think your job as the prosecutor in the greatest city in the world, the greatest markets in the world, is to make sure people are playing fairly in those markets. That's what it's really about.
Who might defund you then? Defund you as a cop? Like defunding the police if you don't think there's anything you need to do.
No, there's a lot to do. I just don't think you wear a badge.
You don't need to approach it with capitalism as your enemy necessarily, which is, what are we at? We're at 41. Where are we? We're at 51% approved capitalism, 39% are at socialism.
Yeah, you know what? What is what? Okay, let's go with that label, the cop. What's your job? It's not to fight markets. It's to make sure markets work well. That is the
playing
job.
Devil's advocate.
And work fairly.
Yeah.
But that is really important. You're having this debate on here about capitalism.
No,
I mean, they
were having that debate.
there is no better system for allocating labor and resources over time than capitalism. And what should we be doing in our job? What do I do at the SEC? It's where markets aren't working, where they're not revealing prices, where they're not letting people make good decisions. You go in there and try to work the market regulation.
I don't see it as a default or a last resort, or Americans finally do what they need to do when they finally do the right thing when they've tried everything. I don't see it that way. I see it as you can embrace capitalism and almost patriotically embrace capitalism because of what it's delivered for people around the world, even in China. That's what's taken all those hundreds of millions of people out of poverty. Is capital, their own kind of capitalism.
Let's compare Europe to the U.S.
Or Canada.
15, 20 years ago, same size economy. Europe took what I would say is an anti-market allocation
40% lower GDP.
40% lower GDP.
Over 20 years, they're much poorer than we are.
Let me ask you a question.
And they have no less talent.
Right. Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question about your role, though, and how you think about it in the following context. So we are going through what I would argue is a generational change in the financialization of our country. Whether it's crypto, this idea that you're seeing private enterprise or private companies being, quote unquote, tokenized so that the public can get access to it. You're now talking about private credit markets and private equity and venture capital that's going to be accessible to retail investors, ultimately possibly put into 401k plans and the like. All of that is going to be very dependent on a lot of these institutions marking to market their assets without necessarily controls over them in the same way that public companies have had historically. And I imagine that is going to be part of your purview, because there are going to be people, for better or worse, that are going to be trying to play with the law.
Two things there that are really important. One is all American investors should have as much access to the American economy as possible. We have driven all retail investors into the cash equity markets. 10 companies are 30% of their exposure. That is not what I would call a diversified investment. Now, to your point about how do we ensure that the prices people are relying on are good, we should remember that there are certain things that you invest in that you do not expect to have mark-to-market prices every day. That's part of private equity investing. It's part of private credit investing. Those types of investments are entirely suitable for 401ks, right? Where we can easily devise rules that make sure they operate fairly, even though day-to-day prices may not be the same as the cash equity market.
Right, but the reason I'm raising this issue,
and we can do it.
is
we're already doing it.
I hope it works. There's a whole bunch of what are described as semi-liquid instruments that are being created, such that effectively these private funds are buying what might be described as illiquid assets, but are trying to create a liquid market for them. And part and parcel of that is going to be marking those assets in a different way than the way a classic company might be, quote unquote, marked.
We don't have to talk in hypotheticals. Take what has happened in Australia with their superannuation funds. Every person in Australia gets allocated capital into both liquid and illiquid investments. And it has worked fabulously well. We can duplicate that in America, I think, very easily. It's been around 25, 30 years, and they have solved their retirement crisis. It's mandatory employee contributions. So think of a mandatory 401k. You know, the employer has to put the money in. But for excessive hardship, you can't take it out. It's managed professionally, like well-managed pension funds are managed. And then at 65, there you are with a fairly substantial investment.
The reason I'm raising
Australia was pretty unusual in that it went without
they were way ahead of us.
But they also went without a recession for an incredibly long period of time because they were heavily benefiting from the Chinese economic boom that was there too. But that's an interesting
bored
model.
with this. Do you think there's lawfare going on between Trump and Pulte and the Fed?
I'm not going to. I am not going to talk about it.
I mean, you should be able to look at that and make some type of determination. Don't you think, Andrew? Get him going.
Here's something
Get him
important.
going.
Here's something really important.
Show you a man and I'll find a crime.
The American people need to have confidence in their Justice Department. They need to have confidence in their district attorney's offices. They need to feel like the decisions that are being made are the decisions that the American people want. That's just fun. That's what I go to work with.
You want to keep your job, I see.
No.
You are a high-minded, very moral, I know you, ethical person. Nothing going on where you go, whoa, two wrongs don't make a right. This is quid pro quo. This is, huh?
Two wrongs never make a right, Joe.
Okay, none of this retribution?
Let's let the process play out.
Let me ask you a different question. One of the things
that was your question, and you don't even want to talk about it.
No. For better or worse,
you're doing Andrew's dirty work today.
I'll tell you what. I don't think Jay's going to answer.
Sleeping with dogs.
I don't think Jay's going to answer the question.
What doesn't mean it shouldn't be asked? You
I'm suggesting it should be asked.
You yell at me all the time.
You've asked the question, and the great part about live TV is you get to see the answer. You get to see the answer.
There was none.
Nah, so that's why live TV is fun.
Right. My question to you is slightly different, which is one of the things that the leader of the Southern District has often done is prosecute insider trading. And in this new world, and the new world being crypto, being tokens, being everything else, where is the line around insider trading in your mind today? What is the line? Because you look at crypto, and some people would say crypto is a commodity, sometimes it's a security, sometimes it's now with an ETF. So where's the line? Do you imagine over the next couple of years that you're in this role that we're going to see prosecutions of insider trading as it relates to crypto? Maybe that's the question.
The answer is yes, I do expect it. I expect it on a fraud theory and on a manipulation theory. Just because something's not a security doesn't mean there aren't laws that apply. I mean, general fraud, wire fraud, those types of theories, apply to non-securities markets all the time. And I think people sometimes say, okay, if it's not a security, it's the Wild West. I would caution them not to think that.
Do you think capitalism is being watered down with, or needs to be modified with crony capitalism, with NVIDIA at 15% and Intel at 10% stake? You're a pure capitalist. Is any of this the means of production being owned by the state, which is not what we want? You got no problem with any of it?
U.S. Steel,
okay,
was one time 15%. What I don't like is when the government makes day-to-day capital allocation decisions.
And if it's a passive investment, see, I like the Intel deal because I don't want to give money away to some losing. I'd rather, if we're going to lose, we might as well own part of it, and if we win, then taxpayers can win.
There is a big difference between subsidies and passive investments and government.
Would you rather do passive investments than subsidies?
What?
Like Intel.
They're kind of two sides of the same coin, right?
Well, then you don't like.
You get something in return for the other.
We like the CHIPS Act.
What do you?
I like the CHIPS Act.
You like the CHIPS Act?
I like the concept. I don't
implications?
like the implementation necessarily, but I like the concept.
Because of the defense and
Yeah.
this national security. Let me ask you, what do
when
you
your enemies are trying to
doing it.
steal the means of production and locate them and deprive you, you have to respond.
What are you spending most of your time on these days? Where do you think there are big problems that haven't been addressed to this point?
In markets or generally?
Generally.
I think we need to break the cartels. I think the distribution of drugs, the effect of drugs, fentanyl, opioids on American society is one of the worst things that's happened. We have nation states that are enabling the cartels. There's no doubt that Venezuela is supporting the distribution of fentanyl into the United States. Other nation states are involved.
You're focusing your office's resources on this right now?
We should bankrupt the cartels.
If
we should put them out of business.
And is that something that the Southern District is focused on?
It's the Justice Department generally, and it's something that I'm keenly focused on.
Listen, if you're driving from here to Cincinnati, what does every rest stop have in the bathrooms?
Use needles.
Not use needles, but the thing that if you do get
Narcan.
a Narcan.
It's
Really?
So you asked me what the most striking thing in this new job is? It is that the cartels, they may as well be a Fortune 100 company. Their sophistication, their distribution networks, and they do not care about people.
Let me ask
That's
you,
what you're coming after. That's what you're going
absolutely.
Let me ask you to weigh in on this, and I don't know if you will. Jeanine Pirro effectively has now said that she will no longer bring felony charges against people for possessing rifles or shotguns in the District of Columbia. And that's a very interesting choice at a time when the president is bringing the National Guard into D.C. to try to clean up the issue and try to actually create a safer environment. And here she is at the exact same time saying that she's not going to prosecute people who walk around with rifles and shotguns.
We wouldn't need the National Guards if they were allowed to do that.
Let me turn to New York, which I know.
Are you serious?
Second priority, criminals who use guns, get them off the New York streets.
Exactly.
We have a task force, the GSVP. They meet every day, the Gun Violence Strategic Partnership. My prosecutors go there, and they pick the most violent criminals.
You always miss that. Lawful gun owners aren't used in the problem.
And we want we do not want someone who shoots someone else to be out on the streets again.
Okay, but hold on. Just to this point, I know you were trying to dodge the question, but since he's raising it, I'm going to come back there. The idea that people are going to walk around Washington, D.C. with rifles and shotguns, just open carry. You're a sensible human being.
I am a sensible human being.
Okay.
Most days.
On most days. Do you think that is a sensible situation that people will just be able to walk around willy-nilly with shotguns and rifles? By the way, I would imagine it makes the police job, a police officer will tell you it'll make their job harder. It'll make the National Guard's job harder. It'll make it harder for safety. Come on.
We're taking it to the absurd
Hold on.
level.
We have a guest here.
Well, you're pointing at me.
Well, let the guest answer the question.
And your voice is going up.
Let me give you a data point about me that shapes my thinking on these things.
Okay.
Which is I grew up in the middle of central Pennsylvania, where you carried a gun. I didn't, but lots of my friends carried guns. There was a time when people would walk to school carrying their guns, so that when they walked home, they would have them as they walked.
In the context of you have a president of the United States, you have senators, congresspeople, diplomats coming from outside of the country to Washington, D.C. So this is a place that's considered highly protected or wanting to be highly protected. And so here we are in this unique city suggesting that we think it's okay to walk around with a shotgun. I mean, literally, it would be like walking around. Do you think that people should be able to walk around Times Square with a shotgun?
I do not.
You do not?
I do not.
Okay, why is that?
What's that?
Why?
We have chosen as New Yorkers, we have chosen as New Yorkers that we are going to have about the most restrictive gun laws possible under the Second Amendment.
But in Washington, D.C., you think it's a choice. No, but this is becoming a federal choice, which is the interesting part, right? In D.C.
But it's a state law here.
No, I understand that. But
let's let D.C. play out. Let me ask you, do you think I bet 95% of Americans would be very, very happy with what's happened in D.C. in the last 30 days. You're going from a murder rate of 40 per 100,000 people. You know what it is in New York? It's 5. So it's 10x the murder rate. What have they done? They've stopped that. After, I lived there for a while.
Right.
After 25 years of saying there's nothing you can do about it, and now it's like that, you know what? Let's let them go. Let's see what happens.